This is Agriculture Today, and I'm Shelby Varner with the K-State Radio Network. Beginning the show is David Schemm, Kansas Farm Service Agency State Executive Director, as he recaps the recent visit from the Undersecretary of Farm Production and Conservation. Kansas 4-H Summer Enrichment Program Administrator Regan Gleason continues the show discussing the 4-H Summer Enrichment Program and what they hope it provides to Kansas youth. Brad White, Todd Gunderson, Phillip Lancaster, and special guest Logan Thompson in today's show with part of the Beef Cattle Institute's Cattle Chat podcast, talking about raising beef cattle in confinement. That and more is coming up ahead. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we start our Wednesday show talking with the State Executive Director of the Kansas Farm Service Agency, David Schemm. David, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Shelby. Always nice here as we're kind of getting into the summer months of the year, and we've seen some moisture across the state. Some areas are severe, but, I know from the farmers and ranchers' perspective, that moisture is always welcome.
And while we're thinking about our farmers and ranchers, wanting to discuss someone who recently came to visit Kansas, and who was that?
So absolutely. We had quite the honor here to have leadership from D.C. come visit the state here. Undersecretary for Food Production and Conservation, Richard Fordyce there. Shelby, that's a political appointment into that position there, just like mine is. Richard Fordyce actually served as FSA administrator underneath the first Trump term there in a lot of ways, and not taking necessarily putting any words into the undersecretary's mouth, but he really identifies it as what he is. He is a farmer from Northwest Missouri, actually.
When looking at FSA and USDA, where does Undersecretary lie within the hierarchy?
When I reference that Washington, D.C. Leadership there, probably better make sure that I'm really clear in the aspect that while their, how would I say, workstation or duty station is in Washington, D.C., these are truly people from around the country with that vested stake in agriculture there and at USDA. So, obviously Secretary Rawlins is our secretary there leading the USDA agency there as we go forward within the mission area there. Underneath the secretary is Deputy Secretary Steve Baden. He kind of does a little bit more of that day-to-day operation there to free the secretary up. And then there's actually 8 undersecretaries within the very mission areas underneath the USDA. And so Richard Fordyce, again, is the Undersecretary for FPAC, or Food Production and Conservation there. And kind of utilizing Richard's own words there, this is really the farmer-facing mission area of USDA that the Farm Service Agency, Natural Resource Conservation Service, Risk Management Agency, the Business Center, these areas all report, and Richard is responsible for making sure that we're carrying out those mission areas to our producers across the state there. So obviously, when we start talking about our farmers and our ranchers out there, like you said, Shelby, these are kind of the key areas that are very, very important to our producers.
And why was he recently in Kansas?
He really is a farmer, and that's what was a lot of fun to be able to spend the day with him. Out of Northwest Missouri here. Again, because of some of the political requirements, he cannot be involved on the farming right now, but he sure identifies as a farmer. Obviously that's what he grew up as. And, he's got kids back there on the operation. Obviously they've taken over the operation from him and run it. But it was a lot of fun that day going around and listening to Undersecretary Fordyce talked with various people here. Specifically, he came to Manhattan, just a limited time frame that he had. I know he visited with some producers over on the eastern side, South Kansas City, and some of that areas prior on Tuesday. Then even on Thursday, went over to the Salina area. We also visited with producers over there. But Wednesday kind of focused here upon the Manhattan area there. First of all, came over to our state office that's located in Manhattan. We were able to have some county office staff come in here and kind of kicked off the day, just sitting down with employees, talking about what our mission area is and what we need to deliver out there. Shelby, it was really fun listening to Undersecretary Fordyce talk about the speed and the dedication and the passion of implementing new technology and bringing this new technology out here for our producers to use and for our county office staff to use at FSA here. Basically, helping it make it easier for them to get work done, whether it's new acreage reporting tools, various way for producers now to access and fill out applications there. Really exciting stuff to listen to him. One of the things that I really appreciated, and the Undersecretary was very, very clear in communicating to our staff, we're looking at implementing these new tools and these efficiencies there. It has nothing to do with reducing staffing. In fact, what it's about is making our staff, more efficient and to be able to get the job done quicker and more effectively and even better there. He wanted to very clearly tell all the employees, we're here to keep you. If Congress authorizes additional dollars, we're going to be putting more staffing out here in the county offices to make sure that we're delivering these programs to our producers as what is our core mission area is there. So the Undersecretary just was really clear on the aspect that this technology is a way truly to help our employees get the job done that they need to get done.
David, from growing up in agriculture and being in this appointed position now for the second time, how have you seen communication develop and support the growth of Kansas agriculture?
Shelby, it's a very exciting. It was very exciting for me to be able to spend the day with the Undersecretary, talk to him, and give that truly that feedback back to him about areas that we can do better, him to give the guidance for what we're trying to get done out here, truly have that communication. I think I've heard the comment before, we're moving at Trump speed right now. Truly what we're trying to do here and what the Undersecretary is trying to do is get this new technology out here, get new efficiencies put into the agency that truly helps our employees, helps us to serve our producers out there. And from my tenure at previous tenure, first time, we were trying to do that, but this time come back and even the Undersecretary said it is that we know what we need to do, and it's allowed us to be able to do it quicker and do it better because we know what the issues are and being able to address it. And, that was really evident there. We had the opportunity. I did a podcast along with Undersecretary Fordyce with actually Kansas Wheat. So they have a podcast out there called Wheat's on Your Mind. And Shelby, it was just great listening to the Undersecretary and him talk about the passion that he has of trying to help our farmers and ranchers out there, understanding the challenges that they're going through, and that knowing that we feel, myself, Richard Fordyce feels that pressure and that need that we need to deliver for our producers out there to make sure that we help them. And there's, as he said, there's some challenging times that we're dealing with right now, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's a bright light, and it's coming fast for the ways that we're trying to look at better helping our producers out there. We had opportunity to sit down at a round table with producers and representatives from almost all of the ag organizations in the state here. We were running out of room. But it was just a great discussion. And once again, and definitely a comment was made to me multiple times, Shelby, that it very much the undersecretary comes across, he really is what he is, and that's as a farmer. He's somebody that understands the challenges and appreciates it. He's there to listen, but he's also there to try to get things better and help our producers out there. So great day visiting with the undersecretary, and a full day. We started before 8 o'clock, and I don't think we finished up till after 6 o'clock in the evening, and it was with a working lunch. So,
as you've discussed FSA administration working to do things for producers, is there anything producers can be doing to hopefully make sure what is being done is beneficial for them?
It's about giving the feedback, and quite honestly, it's the feedback either at the local FSA office there. It's little things, whether or not they're being challenged when they go to sign up for login.gov or get on to Farmers.gov. Give that feedback to the local offices. It is amazing here. I had asked this morning for comments from my state office staff about their impressions of the undersecretary. And I can even reiterate this from my own personal experiences there, is that he truly knows and he listens to that input that's coming from a county office. When I reference some situations that's occurred here in the state, with challenge or various things like that, he's aware of that. Even from my perspective, when county offices, when I hear from producers, about issues or challenges they may be facing, that feedback definitely gets up to me, and it's definitely, I'm listening. So definitely encourage our producers there. Have those conversations, mention stuff to our staff, be engaged with your ag groups out there. They're always a great pipeline for giving that feedback on up there. And then, anytime you have the opportunity to engage me, any of the leadership there, producers, again, need to realize that we are there to listen, and truly we want to hear from them, know ways that we can make it better and deliver those programs that are truly needed for our producers, help that next generation out there. That's what we're about there. So again, like I said, just comments that I got back from the staff when I asked them today what their impression was very personable, very nice, very down-to-earth undersecretary. And so it was a great day.
David, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Thank you, Shelby.
That was State Executive Director of the Kansas Farm Service Agency, David Schemm. We're cutting to a short break now, but we'll be right back. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we continue our show discussing the 4-H Summer Enrichment Program with Kansas 4-H Summer Enrichment Program Administrator Regan Gleason. Regan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Regan, what is the 4-H Summer Enrichment Program?
The Summer Enrichment Program is a grant-funded program through the Patterson Family Foundation that addresses summer learning loss with youth through utilizing local extension units. We have about 68 interns placed across the state of Kansas throughout the different local districts and counties, and their main purpose and mission is to host educational programs, workshops, day camps that help increase outreach with 4-H and reach those youth that may not be familiar with the 4-H program or the extension resources. So it's a really, really neat program that we're excited to bring back. It was originally funded through the Department of Education in 2022 through 2024, and we are excited to have funding and be able to circle the wagons and regroup and start it again.
And how did this focus become on summer learning loss?
Yes. So originally this program was curated to address learning loss through COVID-19. We've had a couple of years since 2020. So we kind of, like I said, regrouped and figured out that there's still learning loss happening when kids are outside of the classroom. So what better way to address that than through resources provided through local extension units and non-formal educational programming through fun activities that are still teaching hard and soft skills, but in a more, less structured way is the best way to explain it. So yeah, lots of activities and unrecognized learning is happening through 4-H programming, and hopefully some youth will participate in these programs and then realize that 4-H is great and awesome and they can learn so much and then enroll in their local program.
And how do these local extension offices get funded to have these interns?
Yes. So back in the fall/winter, host units had to apply to host an intern, and they could be awarded funds to host either one or up to 4 interns, depending on size of the area or need. And so counties, districts applied. They were then awarded funds, and they were able to select their interns and do their own hiring process. And while we do require a certain curriculum be facilitated across the state for data collection purposes, interns are allowed to address county needs and provide curriculum and educational programming that addresses those needs and interests as well.
And what is the focus of this year's curriculum?
It is financial literacy through a program called Reading Makes Sense. It's very, very neat. And I know financial literacy is not everyone's favorite thing to learn about, but the activities and the supplies that we provided the interns are really helping them facilitate these unique activities where, like I mentioned, unrecognized learning is happening in a non-formal setting. And so kids are learning kind of while doing these crafts and activities, but it's kind of an unknown that it's happening. But they're still learning those valuable skills and learning about financial literacy and money and what it means.
And what other curriculum are you providing to these interns if they are wanting to expand what they're teaching to youth in their area?
Yes. So we hosted a intern orientation in May where we provided curriculum training and supplies for interns to facilitate Reading Makes Sense, like I mentioned, but also Junk Drawer Robotics, which is a technology and STEM program, as well as Gray for a Day, which focuses on sensory deprivation and learning about what it means to grow older and learning about your senses and what losing your senses feels like.
What youth are able to then participate in these learning opportunities?
Ages 5 to 17 years.
Are most of these learning opportunities also free for youth to attend, or does it differ between local units?
Yes. So all of these opportunities through SEP or Summer Enrichment Program are free to attend. Just contact your local extension unit and ask what programming is being facilitated, and there should be registration up and ready for you to enroll your youth to participate in these programs at no cost.
Regan, as you're thinking about this as being the Kansas 4-H Summer Enrichment Program Administrator and thinking about the youth in Kansas, what do you really hope they get from this program?
Oh gosh. Well, I think our goal specifically with the youth is to increase 4-H outreach and enrollment and ensure that youth are beyond ready, which is the whole national 4-H mission. However, I'm also looking at the intern side of things and what are they getting out of this? And personally for me, I am hoping that they are receiving a positive experience with 4-H extension and understanding what it looks like to be a 4-H extension educator or agent on the backside of things. And then hopefully this will encourage them to pursue a career with extension, whether that be an ag agent or 4-H agent, but to be involved either as their profession or even as a volunteer, and just continuing to advocate for 4-H and Kansas 4-H specifically.
If people are wanting to find out more information about this, how can they do that?
Good question. So each unit is advertising their programming differently. And so the best way to find out more information specifically about the programs being offered is to contact your local extension unit and inquire about it. If you are an agent listening to this and you would be interested in hosting an intern in 2027, 2028, please feel free to reach out to me or the state office, and we would be happy to let you know the timeline for the upcoming intern program and what applications look like and what would be required to host one.
If someone's listening and their local unit doesn't have an intern, are they able to go to another community if they're wanting to learn this curriculum?
For sure. This is open to anybody and everybody, regardless of if they are involved in 4-H or not. And you can jump county lines if you would like. And if one county's hosting something on junk drawer robotics, but another one's hosting Gray for a Day, you can hit both of those in the same week or whatever floats your boat. There really isn't any qualification material besides just registering beforehand and reaching out if you have questions.
Regan, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
That was Kansas 4-H Summer Enrichment Program Administrator Regan Gleason. Before we cut to a break now on Agriculture Today, we're going to be joined by Kansas Wheat's Gordon Clark for a recent wheat scoop.
I'm Gordon Clark, and for this week's Kansas Wheat Report, we will discuss the 2025-2026 year-end numbers that reflect solid wheat sales to core and swing markets. The 2025-2026 marketing year closed on May 31st, 2026, and U.S. wheat export sales finished the year on a strong note, providing a buffer of support for farm families during a year of low farm gate prices. Final export inspections hit 23.7 million metric tons, or 871 million bushels, representing a nearly 15% increase year over year and the highest exports since the 2020-2021 marketing year. The volume is impressive, but the numbers alone do not tell the full story. Just as important as how much wheat was sold was where those sales originated. Increases in wheat exports to both core and swing markets reflect the reputation and value of U.S. wheat in the global marketplace. The mix of sales to both core and swing markets in the 25-26 marketing year reflects the resilience of the U.S. wheat export program. At the beginning of the year, the USDA projected exports at 21.8 million metric tons and revised that estimate several times as commercial sales continued to outpace the prior year. By the end of the year, more than 55 countries had purchased U.S. wheat, reflecting strong early season demand and continued sales to a mix of core, emerging, and swing markets. The strong performance of U.S. wheat exports during the 25-26 marketing year was especially evident for hard red winter wheat, the class predominantly grown in Kansas. Total hard red winter export sales reached 8.67 million metric tons, a 58% increase over the previous marketing year. Mexico remained one of the largest buyers of hard red winter wheat, purchasing 2.26 million metric tons, up 44% from the previous year. Other key markets for Kansas-grown wheat also posted significant gains, including Japan, South Korea, and Colombia. Several emerging and price-sensitive markets showed particularly strong growth, with hard red winter sales to Nigeria increasing 221%, Venezuela increasing 118%, and Indonesia increasing 74.6% compared to the previous marketing year. These numbers highlight the importance of maintaining a diverse customer base. While long-standing markets such as Mexico, Japan, and South Korea continue to provide a reliable foundation for demand, growing sales in markets like Nigeria and Indonesia demonstrate the value of continued investment in export market development. This is proof of the global demand for the milling and baking qualities that Kansas wheat delivers. The growth in hard red winter exports reflects years of relationship building, technical support, and customer education conducted by U.S. Wheat Associates. As global buyers see consistent quality and reliable supply, Kansas wheat is well positioned to meet the needs of millers and bakers around the world. All eyes are currently on the progress of the 2026 wheat crop as combines have started cutting in the southern United States. As harvest progresses, U.S. Wheat Associates will continue its work to position producers to take advantage of market opportunities with the right mix of customers in the right places at the right time. For Kansas Wheat, I'm Gordon Clark.
Once again, that was part of a recent Kansas Wheat Scoop. If you'd like to check out other information from Kansas Wheat, you can do so by heading over to their website, kswheat.com. I will link it in today's show notes on agtoday.net. We're cutting to a short break now on Agriculture Today, but stick around because we have more for you up ahead. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we conclude our Wednesday show with part of the Beef Cattle Institute's Cattle Chat podcast with Brad White, Phillip Lancaster, Todd Gunderson, and special guest Logan Thompson.
This is from a listener that says, hey, I've got some experience feeding confined cattle on the dairy side. What about putting up a cow-calf confinement barn? Because land is expensive. It's hard to graze cows on that land to support the number of calves. What if we kept them in a confined environment, fed them a total mixed ration, and had them there all year? And Todd, I want to get your thoughts on this first.
Well, I think the key there is we're coming at this the same way we would from a dairy operation. And you're talking about a different animal. You're talking about a different system. You will have different challenges, and you may need a different type of animal to be successful in a confined cow-calf operation. The biggest problem you're going to have is when you start calving in confinement like that. You're going to have an environment that's contaminated, it's hard to keep clean, and that's going to be a challenge for those young calves. And dealing with scours, possibly some outbreaks of respiratory disease. That's going to be the thing you're fighting against. A thought I've had on this, one system that I've seen on the dairy side that I think might be fairly adaptable over to a beef side would be a composted bedding pack. That would take care of a lot of your pathogen contamination problems if you did it right. Now, the problem with a composted bed pack is you have to do it right. There's very little margin for error. But if you can manage it correctly, and it requires having a tractor with a tiller that can turn over that bed pack regularly, you have to be able to haul in wood shavings because that's an important component of the compost. But if you could manage that appropriately, you might be able to create an environment that is clean enough to successfully beef cows out, and would also create, enough of a comfort issue that those cows could be comfortable. And then, of course, you have a little bit of a side revenue of you have now produced compost.
Logan, have you had any experience with this?
Yeah, and not too long ago, heard a talk from Dr. Scheike at University of Illinois who's done some work on this. And I always think, I spent a lot of my formative years in northern Michigan in my 20s, and we're fairly confined up there, but we do take advantage of a grazing season. A full 365 in confinement, there's a lot of costs, there's a lot of health concerns involved in it. I mean, maybe right now the feed cost isn't too bad relative to what cattle prices are bringing, but it would be a challenge to stay profitable in the long term. But if you were to do it around your calving window, it is manageable. Otherwise, people want to run cattle in Canada, right? So if you think about it in that regard, it can be done. But at the same time, do you have the labor to do it and do it well and keep your animals healthy? That's the biggest challenge.
Phillip, what about the nutritional side of this? Obviously, if we're bringing them everything that they have to eat, it's all going to have to be harvested forages or materials. Do you think it would be easier to calibrate the exact diet that the cows need? Because we can't on pasture, right? Pasture's pasture.
Yes, you can. So there's been some research done looking at feeding cows in confinement. So limit feeding them a more high energy diet than we typically would. And that actually reduces their maintenance requirements because you're actually reducing those organs that are highly metabolically active, the GI tract, the liver, some of those. And so you can reduce their maintenance requirements, and so you make them a little bit more efficient by doing that and using a ration that's limit fed, that's a little bit more higher concentrate. From a little bit of experience I have doing some economics on confinement barns for finishing calves, the value of the manure for the crop producer that really pushes you over the edge as far as be able to make it worth it. So because you're getting a much higher quality manure in a confinement barn than you are from a dry lot pen. And so that really helps, especially when fertilizer prices are high. And then I guess the other thing I would think about too is what kind of confinement barn is he building? Airflow is huge in those. And so get somebody involved with you that has experience in designing a confinement barn for cattle to make sure that you can get it set up where you got good airflow through that barn.
Once again, that was part of the Beef Cattle Institute's Cattle Chat podcast. That's what we have for you today on Agriculture Today, but we'll be back with more for you tomorrow.